Due to mature subject matter, viewer discretion is advised.
This is where one of the most horrifying scenes unfolded. A group of people were running for safety and they made it this far to the water's edge, but encountered this cliff too steep to jump off. So they huddled together, but were overcome by the flames. And rescuers were shocked to find the bodies of 25 people. The position of those bodies showed that they were hugging each other when they died.
Blessed are the eyes that see what you see. For I tell you, many kings and prophets have desired to see what you see, and have not seen it. To hear what you hear, and have not heard it. I thank you, Father, for hiding these things from the learned and the wise, and revealing them to the innocent and the simple.
Gale force winds fueled several large wildfires raging across seaside towns near Athens, Greece. Witnesses say the fires are changing direction so quickly that many people are being caught off guard. Some people swam out to sea to escape the flames, rescued by fishing boats. In a heartbreaking discovery, Red Cross workers found more than 24 bodies huddled together, hugging each other.
The fast-moving flames quickly consumed homes and buildings, fueled by 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Some tried to escape on highways, only to be surrounded by walls of fire. Aerial video reveals burned-out neighborhoods and singed land. This man, searching for whatever he could find near where his wife was killed, was still in shock.
I took my baby and ran towards the sea, while my wife, I didn't know what happened. I think he burned herself here.
In the coastal town of Mati, a popular tourist destination, the charred remains of victims were recovered. Some who did make it to the sea described disorienting scenes. Nikos Stavrinidis tried to swim away from the shore. It's horrible to see the person next to you drowning and not be able to help him, he said. The Coast Guard and private boats rescued more than 700 people who'd fled to beaches or right into the water.
Tonight, investigators are desperately searching for a motive behind the shooting of more than a dozen people, shattering a quiet Sunday night in Toronto.
There's multiple victims, and the suspect that's fleeing looks like possibly still shooting.
The shots broke out at around 10 p.m. in a section of Toronto known for its nightlife. Victims seen laying on the street, witnesses in shock as paramedics rushed to save the wounded.
One woman ran and she fell, and he went over her and shot her twice.
As a result, 2 people have succumbed to the injuries. One is an 18-year-old female and another is a 10-year-old girl.
13 other victims, ranging from 10 to 59 years old, being treated in local hospitals, some seriously injured. The shooter, fleeing on foot, found dead just blocks from where the shootings took place. Authorities now say the suspect was 29-year-old Faisal Hussein from Toronto.
Let me begin by saying that Toronto police are still investigating the motive behind Sunday night's mass shooting that left 2 people dead and 13 others wounded. However, this morning on official ISIS media, the terrorist organization claimed responsibility for the shooting carried out by 29-year-old Faisal Hussein. The claim, written in English and in Arabic, says this, quote, "The attacker in the city of Toronto in southeastern Canada Sunday night was a soldier of the Islamic State, and he carried out the attack in response to the call to target citizens of coalition nations."
A series of storms churned through the Midwest this evening. Tornadoes blowing through southern Indiana. And in Kentucky, rain, wind, and hail.
This is terrible.
This following a string of destructive tornadoes in Iowa yesterday. One after another they hit.
This apparent tornado touching down west of Louisville. Multiple homes damaged. The same system spawning dozens of reported twisters Thursday.
Right over our house. And then there's a full-fledged tornado over there north.
The National Weather Service issuing a tornado emergency in Marshalltown, Iowa. A twister tearing through downtown.
Oh my God.
Residents also racing for cover in nearby towns. Dozens of homes damaged in Bondurant.
Is it coming this way?
In Pella, hundreds celebrating a manufacturing company's anniversary when that EF3 twister tore through with 144-mile-per-hour winds.
The weather extremes do extend far beyond the United States. The temperature in Japan, just west of Tokyo, hit 106 today. That is the highest temperature ever recorded in Japan. A heat wave there is blamed for at least 44 deaths. A heat wave in Sweden, inside the Arctic Circle, is feeding dozens of wildfires, one of the worst outbreaks the country's ever seen.
Firefighters in Sweden say their battle for control is far from over. Remarkably, nobody's been injured by the dozens of wildfires. The government's appealed for help from other countries. Italy, France and Norway have responded by sending water-bombing helicopters and planes, as well as emergency personnel. Unusually high temperatures across the whole Nordic region, up to 33 Celsius, coupled with virtually no rain for several weeks, have made the vegetation here highly flammable. Finland and Norway have also had wildfires in the last week, but it's Sweden that suffered the most. In some areas, homeowners have been moved to safety, while thousands of Swedes have been warned to stay indoors with the windows shut to avoid breathing in smoky air. Swedish authorities say that as of Thursday, an area equivalent to 20,000 football pitches had burned. That's 10 times the size you'd expect in a normal year. And some fires are still spreading.
The Israeli Defense Force said on Tuesday, July 24th, it shot down a Syrian fighter jet that entered Israeli airspace. The IDF shot 2 missiles at the jet as soon as it entered Israel. The plane was struck when it went back into Syrian airspace. Syrian media reported the jet was conducting raids against rebel groups along the border and claimed Israel targeted it while it was in Syria. Neither Syria nor Israel reportedly could confirm the fate of the pilot. Before shooting down the Russian-made jet, Israel contacted Russia to make sure the jet was indeed Syrian. This is the second incident along the Israel-Syria border just this week. On Monday, Israel used its David Sling missile defense system for the first time after Syria launched 2 rockets. Tuesday reportedly marked the first time Israel has shot down a Syrian-manned aircraft since 2014.
As scores of Vice President Abdul-Rashid Dostum supporters gathered to welcome him back at Kabul's international airport, a suicide bomber detonated his vest at the main entrance. Among the casualties were security forces and civilians. Dostum escaped. His convoy had passed minutes earlier. The second most powerful man in Afghanistan had been living in exile in Turkey for the last 14 months. His supporters protested, demanding his return, but there are many who don't want him back.
Tonight, dangerous flooding on the East Coast is affecting tens of millions. In Pennsylvania, an urgent search is underway for a missing 19-year-old woman swept into a creek near Harrisburg.
Someone could come help save me.
The floodwaters moved in so quickly, Zachary Reichert got trapped on the roof of his Jeep.
It just happened out of nowhere.
Hershey Park closed Monday after parts of the theme park were submerged. Down the coast, emergency crews responding in Charlotte, North Carolina, after 5 people got trapped in a flooded business. And in Baltimore, Maryland, a child and 2 adults rescued when they got stuck on the school bus. Roads so saturated there, bridges buckle. Dangerous weather showing no sign of letting up.
More than 90 people are dead after a series of bombs and attacks by the Islamic State rocked the Syrian province of Suwaida. Syrian state news agency Sana reported a suicide bomber blew himself up at a busy vegetable market in Suwaida city on the morning of Wednesday, July 25th. Sana also reported Syrian security forces killed 2 other would-be suicide bombers before they could detonate themselves. Simultaneously, IS fighters attacked several villages throughout the province and reportedly took hostages. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is a UK-based human rights group, reported that most of the dead were pro-government fighters, but at least 40 were civilians. The head of the organization said it's the biggest death toll in the province since the fighting began in 2011.
Since May, Kilauea has destroyed more than 700 homes on the Big Island, forging at least 500 acres of new land off the coast, as land around the volcano's crater disappears.
How long is this going to last, and then what happens next?
It's arguably the most important and also the most difficult question. A lot of material leaving the summit, and the rates of eruption from Fissure 8 are quite high. So it's actually very hard to say when that might stop.
Now, more than 2 months later, that river of lava is still churning behind me. Scientists estimate it's moving at about 15 miles an hour, and for it to be moving that fast, it has to be superheated at more than 2,000 degrees. In nearby Pahoa, hundreds are living at the Red Cross shelter, some forced to camp in tents outside.
These are some pretty mean days to have to face.
An intense heat wave currently sweeping through Japan has killed dozens of people. At least 30 people have died and thousands of others are being treated in hospitals. On Wednesday, the temperature in central Japan hit 40.7 degrees Celsius, 105 degrees Fahrenheit, and more than 3,000 emergency calls were made in Tokyo alone, according to data from the city's fire department. The unusual weather is also making it hard for rescuers to help those who were hit by deadly floods in western Japan last week.
In this part of southeastern Laos, villages have disappeared beneath muddy water that cascaded downstream on Monday night. It's not known how many people have been affected by the partial collapse of the Sepiansei Nam Noi Dam, but it's thought that some 4,000 families live in the downstream area. The dam was still under construction on a tributary of the Mekong River. After recent heavy rain, it's believed a warning was issued that a so-called saddle dam built around the reservoir was in danger of collapsing. The warning apparently didn't come in time for many people. Laos is a secretive one-party state, and there will also be concerns about the transparency of any investigation that may be launched into this incident.
It's the Twitter takedown heard round the world. Mr. Trump tweeting overnight to Iranian President Rouhani, never ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences, the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious.
Tensions between the US and Iran are on the rise as the Treasury Department is set to blacklist the Islamic Republic's banking system and foreign reserves on August the 4th. Tehran and Washington exchanged belligerent remarks over the past few days, suggesting a full-out war might be just around the corner. But President Trump downplayed the fears of war, as his administration is confident the unconventional Trumpian diplomacy will bring Iran back to the negotiating table.
Not at all. Not at all.
The Ayatollah regime had vowed war against the US, which could block the oil exports of US regional allies going through the narrow Hormuz Straits. President Trump rebuked the Iranian rhetoric, warning the Islamic Republic must never ever threaten the US again, as America will not hesitate to protect itself and its allies. Despite the Ayatollah regime saying it's unimpressed by the president's rebuke, Tehran is actually facing severe economic consequences of the Treasury sanctions. Meantime, Iranian citizens say the Ayatollah regime has moved money out of their country for years for corruption and to fund Tehran regional proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas. Iranians are hardly enchanted with the regime, but in case of war they would stand up to protect their country, meaning war would be the biggest gift to the Ayatollah regime.
America is threatening the Iranian people with its sanctions, and our own government is doing the same with its incompetence and mismanagement. I do not expect America to do anything to our benefit either.
Internal dissent is coupled with the political instability in Tehran, as Islamic hardliners are seeking to topple the Iranian president. Hardliners believe Rouhani failed to covertly advance the nuclear program and at the same time maintain good relations with the West. But they want war, and some hope if the US actually attacks Iran, the Ayatollah regime could play the victim of imperialist aggression, a tactic perfected by Hamas against Israel.
We will stand up to the American bullying and sanctions with all of our force. We will give them a tough response. They think they can subjugate the Iranian nation through threats. This is an ill-conceived idea.